Hey everybody, it's Jan, and obviously Adrienne's not here. She's on her way. She she's gonna die a slow death at my hands. No. So today we have a show about personal forgiveness. That's huge, huge. I'm just gonna jump right in. I'd like to wish my uncle a very happy birthday up in heaven, and he's the inspiration behind the show. He was everything and still is everything to me. He was one of my guiding forces in life when it came to doing good. He led the example all the way, and he had a hard time forgiving himself. And it was hard to watch, even at a young age. And now that I'm older, I understand it a little bit more. And it's helped shape me into the person that I am today. And the whole philosophy of you gotta, love yourself first. Loving yourself is also, learning how to forgive yourself. Forgiving yourself takes some brutal honesty. And you'll be surprised on what you really truly need to forgive yourself for. I always tend to say, find something that you're the angriest at and dissect it. And there she is.
Hi.
Hi.
So, what are we talking about here?
Personal forgiveness. I was talking about
Oh,
how my uncle's the inspiration behind this, show today, at being his birthday. How he had a hard time forgiving himself, and it was the inspiration behind me being the person that I am today. Learning
okay.
from that mistake, learning what that mistake really truly cost us. Please give me a second. Let me go ahead and
I was driving,
mute.
so now I'm sharing.
Um, he had a hard time forgiving himself. I have a hard time forgiving myself. It takes brutal honesty to forgive yourself. I think that's funny. You just see nothing, but I know that somebody's there. But it looks like you're looking into the great abyss.
Somebody left their phone on the other side of me.
I left mine on, so I feel bad. I usually don't do that. Everything
I
was kind of
couldn't do it
chaotic.
if I had to share because I was driving.
So I'm doing great, by the way. I just remembered to switch over to comments. I'm one of those. I truly was born with no hair. I can't say blonde. So I don't know what that means. I don't know if there was just something missing. I was bald. So,
You had no brain to push that hair out.
right, right. God said brains. I thought he said trains, and I hid behind the door. That's what my daddy always said. No, Adrian, I mean, personal forgiveness is a lot of reason, people struggle with addictions, with anger, with friendship and relationships. Going bald. Hey, I have a bald spot. Careful to hear me. Careful, it's right here. I covered it. I don't mind talking about it. Not that I want to show it off, but you know.
Hey, Terry. Oh, my goodness.
So, do you ever find it hard to, forgive yourself for doing something even just minor?
Oh, yeah. I go one of two ways. Either don't forgive or make up excuses that even I know are stupid.
Why do you think it is? It a responsibility to ourselves? Have we not been taught how to forgive ourselves? I know I had to teach myself how to forgive myself.
I don't think we have been. We've just been taught what we're supposed to do and consequences if we don't.
It's almost like we're not truly sitting down and able to fix the problem.
Mm-hmm.
and forgiveness is a lot of that, whether it's within inside of yourself, or if you have to forgive yourself for the mistake first. You have to analyze the whole situation. You have to forgive yourself for the situation. I made a post earlier this week, about when I get angry, when I get upset, I have to go back and I have to look at why I'm angry. I have to look at what upset me. Why does it affect me? And then I have to go and have a discussion with myself at that stage of life, if that makes any sense, and say, okay, what did I know? What did I not know? How did I apply it? I did the best that I could. So why am I still upset with myself? It's in the past. What is it truly doing for me? And what lesson have I not learned from this? Because there's always a lesson that we haven't learned yet if we haven't forgiven ourselves, because we've put the blinders on. We just push it aside.
Yep.
What Jeremy say? For some reason,
His self-forgiveness can be hard, especially those who feel survivor's guilt.
And I am classic for the survivor's guilt. I can throw myself into a survivor's guilt whirlwind like you wouldn't believe. If I let myself drown in survivor's guilt, I would never get myself up out of bed. But I have to look at the fact that I am surviving, and it's cliche, you survive for a reason. So you have a reason to live for that, live for the reason that you feel guilty for. Because the only thing you should feel guilt for at that point is the fact that you're not living. And losing my son taught me that. Just because I lost him doesn't mean that all life stopped. In fact, I was making life when his life stopped. I was pregnant and I had kids. There was no way that I could stop and beat myself up over something that I knew was, as bad as it sounds, knew was coming, and something I couldn't have prevented. And knowing that I loved him to his utmost, I still have guilt. Absolutely. But it's what I choose to do with that guilt.
Hi, Craig. How are you?
That makes the difference.
It does. I don't know. I think it depends on what trauma you went through in your life, because that kind of determines what it is, how you feel, how you act towards others, what triggers you. It's.
Is it really different? Everybody. I don't think so. I think that everybody, if you've lost somebody, you've lost. Losing a child is completely different than losing a parent. But loss is loss, period. Death is death, period. No matter how it happens, it is still the absence of somebody in somebody's life, and how it affects their life may change them as an individual and how they approach it. But together, when we look at it, nobody's trauma is worse than the next person, and the next person's isn't worse than the other person's.
No, it's not, but it's the way you deal with it.
Right.
And it's going to cause different triggers, different, like a lot of them are afraid to get attached to anybody.
Oh yeah, attachment disorder.
Absolutely. You let go before they will.
Oh, I'm the first one. I'm the first one to say I probably have the biggest attachment disorder that there is. I don't think it's I don't think that's what it is. For me, when I've had enough, I've had enough. So I'm just done. I can become attached to somebody if I want, and I can become disattached. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
It's very true. Very true. So what do you do to get out of that web? How do you start? And that's where it's all the same. I don't care what trauma it is. You have to start with yourself. You have to start with yourself.
You can either weave your way back to what happened in the beginning and try to fix it however you can and then move on. Or you can just try to ignore it, forget it. It didn't happen and try to move on, which won't get you anywhere.
Steve, I suffer with a lot of the things that I went through with my son. I'll just use him as the example. I suffer from post traumatic. And Adrienne will tell you, I do. I have these moments where I just relive that moment. I relive that fear and it grasps me and I can't breathe. What do you do when you're driving? What do you do when you're cooking dinner? What do you do when you're doing this? What do you do when you're doing that with post traumatic flashbacks?
It doesn't just like, oh well, I'll wait till I sit down.
Right. No, it's a in a moment, it grips you. I take a deep breath and I let my brain work through the process of that moment because there is something in that moment that our brain continues to go back to that you have to literally sit down and analyze. What are you holding on to? Post traumatic has a lot to do with the way that we have processed the information. So you need to take that information and you need to pull it out and you need to reprocess it with new tools. It's like going through a cold case file. You have all the evidence, from 60 years ago, it's presented in front of you, and you go through it with a fresh set of eyes, and you find new things because that person has new skills and they have new tools. So once you learn a tool, we can apply that to ourselves very simply. And you just have to pull those case files back out with that post-traumatic moment and go, okay, A, B, and C, and D happened. I understand A, I understand B. Well, I'm stuck on C. I can't get past this moment. So let's sit down and let's self-analyze. What is it about this moment that I can't get through? Is it the guilt? Is there anything that I could have done different? If there's something I could have done different, would it have really changed? And if it was supposed to be different, it would be different. So therefore, it is not different. So we have to accept it for the way that it is.
Joanne,
With acceptance,
what
it helps.
happened there? 16, 17, and 18. You had 3 years of hell. But can you explain a little bit of hard to trust, don't want to get hurt again? Are you talking about your another husband or friends or what?
She's talking about period.
2017, my husband in 2018. So your husband,
Joanne, losing.
away?
So you lost your dad, your daughter, and your husband, and that's hard.
Oh.
Your dad is always, if you have a healthy relationship, is your first love. Okay, I understand. I can understand. There is guilt in that, and if you don't mind, I would like to use this as an example. The guilt that you were feeling is the fact that you had to make that choice. The choice was presented to you because it was an option, and it was probably the better option. All you were doing is holding on to, I don't know how to put this, the guilt of
maybe it could last longer.
Just making that choice is so hard. I commend you on making that choice, first of all. It is one of the hardest choices to do. I have a friend that had to take, her son off of life support. And I can't imagine doing that with my child. But I hold the power of attorney for a few people, and to make that choice. And this is the way that I look at it, is that choice was bestowed upon me because they trusted the choice that I was going to make. Whatever choice I was handed to me, they knew that it was going to be the best situation I was going to choose for them. If there was no other choice, then you love them enough to say, I'm not going to let you suffer. I'm not going to let you live with this consequence because it is unfair to you. It is it is no different when we love an animal. It is no different when we love another human being. It is no different when we love another living being. To make that choice is absolutely devastating and hard. And to have that power is great. The doctors presented you with a choice because it was a necessary choice. And sometimes in life, we have to just deal with those necessary choices. I know that they love you. Their love isn't going to change because you made that choice.
Right. My suggestion is this: talk about it. If you, I know last minute you're not going to get to talk about it. Talk about it. I guarantee you, Jan and I have, and her man will not make the decision to pull it. Her kids cannot make the decision to pull it right now. I don't know if they ever would. So her and I, we've already discussed this. We know what each other wants, and we've already thought about this. And we know. It's not an easy topic.
And that's one of the things that I will tell you, it's not an easy topic. It's not, it's a hard one, but the truth of the matter is the first breath you ever take is your first breath towards death. Death is just a natural process of life. How it occurs is how it occurs. And it could be traumatic. It could be natural. It could be, however, it's a natural part of life. So if we discuss death.
And see, this is another one. This is another one.
Right. No life support for me either.
That's a hard one for me because I'm so close to him. It's a hard topic to even discuss with him. Take someone.
See, but the thing is, Jeremy, usually if somebody's on life support and they've given you the option to take them off of life support, there's no chance in them healing. The statistics are higher than the death rate, and the trauma rate is higher than the survival rate. And that's where you have to be humane. You have to be humane. This is something I'm going to preach as somebody who works in a hospice and has taken care of everybody, well, not everybody, but different age groups. You have to be humane. It's insane to think why would you want the loved one to suffer? You don't. If you love somebody, you don't want them to suffer. So if you've made that choice,
like Jeremy,
you're doing it out of pure love.
If the doctor will tell you if there's a chance that they can eventually heal, but at what cost? Will they have mobility? Will they have the ability to speak? What will their quality of life be like at best? That's what you need to ask the doctors. I can tell you now, Jan, if she can't move, if she can't speak, and if she can't take care of herself, if they're saying she's going to be paraplegic, forget it. It's done.
I'm done. I literally cannot handle that. I couldn't handle somebody taking care of me the way that I used to take care of other people. So my instructions are clear. I mean, very, very, very clear. They're written out. They're detailed. What trauma I'm willing to even be brought back from. I have a very specific DNR. I suggest, that's my suggestion to everybody is go get a specific DNR so then your loved ones aren't put in that position. And that's something that we can learn from that.
Joanne, this might help her. I don't know, but might help somebody. So I was 8 years old when my mom died. My dad, bless his heart, he immigrant from Bulgaria, knew nobody. And it was just him and her. And then they adopted me. Okay. She got sick when I was 7. So from 7 to 8 years old, she was in the hospital, in ICU, dying of cancer. I mean, trach, the whole bit. Of course, they let me in because I was 8 years old and they knew I'll never see her again. So I got run to the hospital. I was out riding my bike one day after school. Dad was at work. We lived in a campground because he thought she'd come home. He was a doctor, he knew better. But all that went out the window when it was his wife. So I was out riding my bike, and he wasn't due to be off work yet. And I guess she coded. And he said, I couldn't find you. And if she's dead when we get there, you're the reason. Okay. That happened twice. Come to find out, from one of the nurses pulled me aside when I was a little older, maybe 10, said, I want to tell you something. Your dad blamed you, and I know it. But I want to tell you what, your mother, I don't know what she was saying in Bulgarian. She was pissed off as hell that he brought her back. She kept saying, don't bring me back. Don't. Let me go. And he refused. It was selfish. He refused to let her go. And the worst part of all that, she suffered another 2 months, and he still blamed me, which whatever, because I was out riding my bike the next time too. I was 8, and I had to get over that. I mean, it was more
right,
of a
really,
hatred.
your fault. And
No.
it wasn't his fault. He just couldn't handle it. He was scared. That's personal forgiveness right there. You had to personally forgive yourself for something that was put upon
Right.
you that should have, right? You looked at it when you were older.
And when I was older, it was hatred. It came out as hatred.
Sorry, my camera completely blurted out. Everything blurted out. That's why it froze for a second.
You did.
Yeah. So anyways, you had to forgive yourself, and you had to forgive your dad, I'm sure. Process.
Before he died, I didn't. And I was 22 at that point. He died of a massive heart attack right there at work. It took me a long time to think it through, going, okay, if I was in his shoes, the only people I knew was my wife and my child. I'm stuck raising a child. I don't know how I'm going to do this because I'm working. I get it.
So you used the tools that you learned later in life and applied them to that situation, looked at that child inside of you and said, it's not your fault. I love you.
Mm-hmm.
You were scared. Now you're safe. Now this isn't going to happen. Now you understand. And I'm sure every once in a while, because it is a traumatic moment, and we do relive it, you have to reassure yourself that everything's fine.
Jeremy, that's one thing about you. You will take the blame before you let somebody else.
And that's huge. That's huge, because a lot of people do that. I found myself taking the blame for other people's actions and behaviors. We do it for our children. We do it for our spouses. We do it for everybody except for ourselves. Does that make sense?
Yep. We can preach it. We know what we're supposed to do.
We take the blame for everybody, and we end up just blaming ourselves. We say it's okay for everybody else, but not for ourselves. Mm-hmm. It's not okay for everybody else. They need to take the blame for their own crap. I'm sorry. My plate is Jan's plate. And this is my crap that I serve myself, and nobody else is going to serve me crap. I have enough to deal with. I have enough to forgive myself over, let alone having to add somebody else's guilt. Because the minute that you take the blame, you take the responsibility, and they don't learn. Mm-hmm. I've always taught that. Always, hands down. And that's part of personal forgiveness, is walking through and forgiving yourself for every plate you have ever ate that you didn't have to. And actually, if you do that first thing, if you take all that guilt that you feel for everybody else's mistakes and you give it right back to them, and you say, you know what, it's okay, I know better now, and don't do it again, mm-hmm. You feel 110 pounds lighter instantly.
Right.
It's an instant because you realize that you're not responsible for their actions because you can't control them, because the only person you can control is yourself, your mouth, your mind, and your actions. And the consequences from there are yours.
And if
You
you
know,
can figure out what it is, how you deal with things, and what, I guess, triggers, how it comes out in your life, how it always has. Well, I'm starting to think that, psychiatrists aren't such a bad thing. They're really not. Um, but if you look at how you ended up dealing with things, mine go away before they can. I'm done. Out. And that is not how you handle things. It is not.
Jeremy,
So now I have to evaluate.
Jeremy, I made a post about that a couple, I think a couple of weeks ago. If you have made a decision and you have thought it through and you were comfortable with your decision and you act upon your decision, okay, and even if you have to make that decision, say you're in a place to fire somebody, if you do it, and you make that decision, the other person, the way that they handle that information is the consequences of their own actions. And I'll be very upfront, Jeremy. I mean, I probably didn't handle the situation between you and I'll make that public. Like I said, I have no problem. You guys can learn from me any day.
There's none of us that
did not handle myself very well. None of us handled it correctly. So the way that I chose to deal with it, after I sent, I'm sure, the meanest text message I've ever sent, and I have hopefully apologized for that, if not making it public right now. I apologize for that. It was how I felt at the time. That was my consequence, and I had to deal with that because I chose to react like that. I had to handle it, and it wasn't your responsibility to nurture my feelings or to baby me. I took the situation and I went, you know what? Boom, and I blew it up. But then I realized what I was doing, so I stepped aside and literally walked away from everything for over a year, analyzed the situation I was in, and I'm coming back a better person and with more love in my heart than I did before. There was no ill feelings. It just needed to pause for a moment. And that's loving somebody where they're at. And I had to forgive myself for putting myself in that position. You didn't put me in that position. I put myself in that position. So holding on to guilt for other people, and because of the way other people reacted to a situation, because of the decision you made, your cards were already dealt, and we just played the hand that was given to us, and we're better off for it because we all grew and we worked through it like adults.
We're much closer. All of us that are left are much closer.
Right, we are.
Go ahead, Dan. With this question, go ahead.
Where did I start with my journey to learning to forgive myself? At the age of 30, and this actually has to do with my uncle. I had to take a step back and I had to realize that I could continue to live a very dark life of holding on to negative things and dragging myself down, or I could open up my eyes and realize that I had a beautiful life ahead of me and I could have wonderful relationships. And I learned how to love people where they were at, and that included myself. And that's where the self-forgiving came in. I had to sit down, I had to look in the mirror, and I had to say, okay, you are a good person. You've done everything with good intentions. There are very few things that I've ever set out in my life with bad intentions. Even if I do something mean and I do something harsh, it's never out of a bad intention. It's because I'm loving you in a hard spot, because I love people where they're at, and I love them for who they are. And I take them for face value. I had to learn how to forgive myself for being a people pleaser. And I had to learn how to put myself first. And I had to say, I'm sorry. And I wrote a letter, and it's called Dear Me. And I wrote that letter and I sent it to myself, and I will post it. And the minute I learned how to forgive myself, I let go of all this hate. and something beautiful happened. My uncle told me a long time ago just to believe in him. And in the moment that I forgave everybody in my past and I let bygones be bygones and I said the truth is the truth, my aunt came back into my life a year later after I cleared my plate. And I have had some rough times. Losing my son was huge. And I realized that I wouldn't be able to be the person that I wanted to be for my daughter if I didn't forgive myself.
Mm-hmm.
But it's something I've always tried to do, is forgive myself, because I realized that there are just things that were out of my control. And I couldn't do anything about it. So I did the best that I could. And I actually had a psychiatrist teach me that. And a psychiatrist teach me the toolbox. It's quite interesting in the filing cabinet and sorting through.
Yeah.
How long did I fight this? This has been it was long. It's a long process. It's still a process. It's an everyday process. Once I started forgiving myself, you don't stop forgiving yourself. You have to continue to forgive yourself, or you don't continue to grow, because we're different people every day and we make different mistakes every day. And we should grow every day to try to be a better person. And so these steps I do every day. I actually practice what I preach. Adrienne can tell you. I go through my day and I say, can I be a better mom? Can I be a better partner? Can I be a better friend? Can I be better to myself? What can I do tomorrow to make my day even better? And then I count my blessings. And as many as they've dwindled down to, I even count the past blessings, because even with the hard times, I have nothing but love for the people I learned from everybody. So every day is a growing process. Every day is a forgiving process. Every day. I find something different. I don't care. I don't care if it's something like, oh, I don't know. I have to forgive myself for the panic that I feel, and the stress that I put upon myself when, like, my daughter goes and she hides. And I freak out and I stress everybody out in the house and I'm screaming at the top of my lungs for her. And I'm just absolutely panicked. I have to understand that I'm in that post-traumatic moment, like I was talking about. And I have to step aside and go, okay, she's fine. She's okay. I'm overreacting, but it's all right, Janice, because you know what? You have every right to feel that. You have every right to feel that panic. You know what it's like to have a kid go missing and not be where they're supposed to be, and have the worst situation and outcome happen. And you've made it through this far, and she's made it through this far. So it's just every day I might have to forgive myself for that one thing, but I work towards making sure that my reaction is maybe a little less panicked. So I give myself pride and props, even if it's like I don't panic for 10 minutes, where the last time it took me 2 minutes before I panicked. I'm 8 minutes longer. Good job, Jan. Good job. You got this. You have to be your best coach. You have to be your best advocate. You are your only advocate. Nobody else can advocate for you other than yourself.
Yeah. And here's the thing about that.
She made that choice, Jeremy. You didn't.
This is a show where, you're going to see the real us. You're going to hear the real, Jeremy. Some people on here know us like this. Others don't. But we're going to be.
Thank you, Bushwhacker. I love you.
What did you do?
Lori, she said, "Good job, wing weeder."
Oh.
WW. I'm her wing weeder, and she's my bushwhacker.
Oh, I don't even know this. Okay, that's Jeremy.
That's my godmom.
had suggestions for this and that, for ideas that might have healed her. Felt like no one took me seriously because they weren't meant to.
They weren't meant to. It wasn't meant to happen. Here's the beautiful thing about death. I said it. We all die, and it's beautiful. I don't know. From my perspective, I guess because I'm not afraid of death. I know what's waiting for me on the other side. I know how freeing it's going to be. I know how beautiful it's going to be. I know what we become as energy, and I can't wait for it. When I think about how free my son is right now, and it's amazing to me. He's not struggling with the demons of his mental disorder, and he's not fighting himself. I can't imagine what it was like to be him on a daily basis, let alone every 15 seconds. I just, that would be insanity. And it literally was for him.
And this child I had, I really think Pat was here to help. Some of the things that this kid said, I was like, I've heard this before. Okay, let's do this. But this child, listening to him, he's like, I'm sorry. And he knew he lied. He knew he'd done something wrong. And he knew it when he did it. He goes, I'm sorry. I didn't know. So you did know. Yeah, I did.
Right.
But that cycle just kept, I mean, there's nothing you can do about that. That cycle just kept going,
That
kept
cycle,
going.
it's just a cycle. Yeah, it's just it's crazy. And to have to have the intelligence Pat had on top of it, and the fact that he could be out there and he looked normal and he sounded normal, it must have been so hard for him. But I say the same thing about like my grandmother. I say, that's 14 to 80 some years old. I say that about people who have passed in general. If they have nothing that's holding them here, they are living it up. Mm-hmm. They're having the time of their lives. They're with everybody. They're having fun. And it doesn't matter what religion, like I've said flat out, I don't care what your beliefs are. We all believe the same thing deep down. We really do. In my mind, in my opinion, and I will hold a special show on that if anybody wants to hear about that. But I don't know. It's magical. You shouldn't feel guilt about death, because death is death. If death is knocking at the door, death is just going to come. You can't stop it. Energy has an expiration date for being where it needs to be. When energy is done, it's done, and it needs to move on. It has a different purpose, and it needs to go somewhere else. And be grateful and celebrate the life. Don't. I always say, I feel awful going into cemeteries, because everybody just pours their grief out into cemeteries. And instead of pouring your grief out, if you go and you look at it and you say, oh my God, that person lived. Mm-hmm. That person was loved. That person made some waves. That person made some bad choices. But you know what? Deep down inside, this is what that person was. And you relive those happy moments. All you're doing is you're feeding that positive energy to them still. Because till this day, I will never say that I loved my son, or I loved my grandmother, or I loved my uncle. It doesn't matter how they passed. Mm-hmm. I will always love them, and I will continue to love them, because their energy and their life is inside of me. So therefore, it is my duty to live in honor of them, to continue their memory and to continue their legacy, and to be the best person that I can be in honor of them. Mm-hmm. And I made that promise to a friend at 16 when she passed away.
Mark, thank you. Death is just another door of our journey opening. That's true. It's just the people that are left behind. They have to kind of choose how they're going to deal with it. Their own regrets of what they didn't say, didn't do.
but the thing is if you have I always say everything after butt stinks, this is really going to stink. And it sounds so simple and it sounds so stupid. You just talk to them, you say, hey, dude, listen, I'm sorry I screwed up, man. I'm sorry. I should have loved you a little bit harder. I should have, told you you were handsome more. Grandma, I should have called you and talked to you for an extra 5 minutes. I should have flown out there and I should have spent more time with you. So instead of taking those should haves in the past, apply them to the future and just go do them with the people that are living. And that's the best way to honor that.
Yep.
We all have regrets. And if you have those regrets, speak them out loud, and you have to forgive yourself for those regrets and just don't repeat the mistake. That's the hard part, is when you go and you continue to repeat it, you don't learn the lesson.
Yep.
So therefore you have to forgive yourself a little bit harder every single time.
So that means you repeat it, you repeat it, you repeat it until you get it right.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you continue to repeat something, you should just really sit down and look and say, what am I seriously doing? And find a friend that you can be honest with. Or go see a psychiatrist. Go see a counselor. Go to a church group. Go find somebody to talk to. Because having somebody in life is important.
Yeah.
We mourn. I'm very druid in my belief with death. I was also taught that you cry once for the shock. You cry once for the love that stopped growing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you cry once more for selfishness. And then you cry no more, because it should be washed. It should be gone.
Isn't that in one of your, in that, a whole list of songs that we were going through a while back, like 2 or 3 years ago? Wasn't that one of them that was in there?
See, and that's one thing is, watching my Uncle Pat not forgive himself, and to live with his mistakes was killing him, because he had to be perfect. Love yourself for your flaws first. Be honest about your flaws. I'm mean. I'm a mean person. That is one of my biggest flaws. I can be the meanest person on the face of the earth if pushed and poked and prodded. And I have to recognize that about myself, and I have to understand why I have those defense mechanisms, and I have to say, okay, work on it a little harder bit. I think I've gotten pretty good on working on my vengeance. Is that what we want to say? My wrath, the wrath of Jan.
Working on it, or it's working.
It's working. Which one?
I'm not sure. It's not over. I don't know.
But once you recognize your faults and you understand why you have your faults, seriously, you just sit back and you go, really? Or some of the crap that we hold on to. Really, some of the guilt that we hold on to is just so ridiculous sometimes, and
It is.
And I laugh about it because I've already gotten over it. So I'm laughing not at everybody else. I'm laughing at myself at just some of the stupidest things that I've held on to over the years. Like, how petty can I be?
Well,
seriously, how petty, Adrienne?
Sometimes it's not petty. It's our first thought.
But why? Why is it your first thought?
Yeah, we actually have to have somebody that's not in the situation to look in and say, okay, I don't know what you just heard. I don't know what was just said, but this is not you. Let's back up. Let's try this again. But
Lori's laughing. I know Lori's laughing. Lori went through my first divorce with me. She knows what a vengeful, spiteful, mean person I was back then. Actually, I don't think I was. That's the bad thing. I look at it and it was all self-defense. Like it was all just walling up and just I was scared. I was backed into a corner. I was a dog, starving and scared.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna attack the first thing that comes towards me.
But here's the thing.
Or everything that comes towards me. Thank you, Lori.
Somebody yesterday came to me, and it was kind of out of nowhere. But it was out of a post that I had made that only 2 people should have understood. But he did. For some reason, he did. This guy's been on a few TV shows, this and that, whatever. He messages me and he said, this is actually happening to a few friends of mine. And I didn't elaborate anything, on my post. And all I said was, it's retrograde. I think a lot of us are coming to a fork in the road. And we're very confused because we're very uncertain about which one we're supposed to take and what's at the end of it. If we knew what was at the end of one, yes, let's run down it. Well, that's not where we're at.
Right. You never know. You come to the fork in the road, but you have to look at what's best for you. You have to put yourself first. If you're the only one in the situation, you have to put yourself first. If it was, say, a relationship without kids, you look at the kids, you look at the relationship, you look at everything with your partner, without your partner, and you have to make the choice. What is going to be better? I am going to be a better person with or without this person. Okay, well, I'm going to be a better person with this person. So how am I going to make this work? But if you're lying to yourself, this is the part where it stings. Like I said, everything after but stinks. I'm going to have everybody repeat that so nobody says but without knowing that it's going to stink. What was I saying? You have to look at how many times are you going to put up with this? Okay. I don't care. You have to then look at, like, I don't care the situation. Like, if it's not good for you and you're not good for you're not being good to yourself, you're not good for those kids. You're not good for that person. If that person's not going to change, you can't make them change. They're responsible for themselves. So you know what? Then you can sit there and you can rot and you can stink and you can do what you want to do. But I choose to live. And if you don't want to live with me, I don't have to live with you. And I'm going to be a better person without you. And you have to be honest about that. What is your limit? What is your dead zone? You don't go or it's dead. What limits do you have with yourself? And that's where you have to start forgiving yourself for letting and hold yourself to those limits. Because the one thing you're going to learn that you're going to find you have to forgive yourself for is letting people break your limits repeatedly over and over and over and over again. So until you start loving yourself and start forgiving yourself, you're going to continue to let people break you, and you're going to continue to let people use you, and you're going to continue to put yourself down, and you're going to put yourself in that corner, and you're going to back up, and you're going to be rabid, and you're going to be scared, and you're going to attack everything because you don't even love yourself. So you don't know what's in front of you and what's not.
Yeah. Hi, Joseph. Thank you.
That's huge. That's where you have to forgive yourself for letting people push your boundaries. And then once you forgive yourself for letting people push and break your boundaries, you draw that line and you make it thick and you make it a concrete wall and you say, this is not going to happen again. And when it happens again, you're done. Or if it has already continuously happened and you recognize the pattern and you see the pattern, then you get out. Like, go, like, just put that wall up and say, you know what, we're done. Because at this point, it's literally killing you. You are killing yourself by holding yourself in a situation that you don't feel loved, safe, you don't have a partner, and you'll do much better on your own with whoever you have by your side as your support team. And I can say that from personal experience on both ends.
Yep.
That's where growth comes from.
Yep.
And it comes from that personal forgiveness, and you have to forgive yourself. Have to. I will repeat that. And you have to love yourself where you're at. And you have to love yourself for where you've been and respect yourself for where you've been and pat yourself on the back, because no matter what, you may be a survivor of guilt. You're still a survivor. Throw that guilt away. You're a survivor. You have the ability to live for those people. You have the ability to live for yourself. You have the ability to create your own legacy, to create your own mindset, to create your own goals. You are your only limitation, truly. Absolutely. 100%.
Yep.
Adrienne's like, God, I hate you.
No. No, we've had this discussion a few times.
Well, it's been a common theme over the past, I'd say, week. Is I've had a lot of people go, I don't know what's going on. Take a step back. Let's look at the situation. And I've noticed that it's all been about forgiving yourself. You have to forgive yourself.
And I think that's a lot of it, is taking a step back, and maybe 5, and looking, what pattern, what's going on here, and why am I continuing this pattern?
Dawn, I tell you what, if it's bad enough, never again. Never. Once. That's all it takes. For me, once. Ask Adrienne.
Dawn, here's the question. Are they hurting you physically or emotionally?
Mentally, physically, emotionally, sexually. And if you
are, no more.
Mm-hmm.
I know you well enough to know you've made it on your own. There's no reason for anybody else to slide in there like that.
You know what I always say, what is the saying? Once bad on you, twice bad on me, 3 times, that's it. I don't even give them 3 times. I don't. If I've told you and it's a hard line, it's one and done. There is no more chances. If it's something that is a minor infraction, I will say, or a medium infraction, I will take a step back. I will analyze the friendship. I will analyze the situation. I will see if it is even worth it to continue to move forward. And that sounds bad, like it's a waste of my time, but I don't want to waste the other person's time either. I told Holly this once. Holly had made a post, and I started laughing because she loves lipstick. You can tell. And I said, Holly, just because you can't wear a shade of lipstick doesn't mean it doesn't look good on somebody else. So why hoard that lipstick? Just pass it off and forget about it. Wipe it off your lips and move on. And you can do that with anything in your life. If somebody's not a right fit for you, and if it's your husband, if it's your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your wife, your best friend, if somebody's not a right fit for you, let them go so they can be a right fit for somebody else.
Right.
And just love them as they leave. Just wave and have all the good intentions. Even if they break that line, love them where they're at and just walk away and just say, no, I'm done. I love you enough as a person, and I respect you enough as a human being, that I'm just going to leave you. I'm going to leave you where you're at, because you make up your own mind. You make up your own choices. You do your own thing. Yeah, I can't change you. There's the water. I can show you the map. Doesn't mean you know how to read it.
So here's the thing with Joseph. I don't know how much he's wanting me to tell, but he did. He had to take a step back last week, and it was a very serious step. And it turned out that there's a little hope, but he really had to. He was facing some choices today that turned out decent so far. We'll see where it goes, but
I'll send you nothing but positive vibes.
he had to face it alone.
He had what? I'm sorry. You completely blurted out on me. Did
What?
you say he had to face them alone?
Yeah, he did.
That sucks. Facing choices alone is scary and tough, and I don't wish it upon anybody.
Yeah. And this wasn't so much choices as it was put on him, and there was no choice. It was either was this way or wasn't, and he had to face it alone. And I asked him to, please let me know. And he did. So, he actually did what I asked. That's a good thing. But there is some hope now. So he's okay. He says I can tell. So he was diagnosed with cancer. I won't say anything about what kind or anything, but he was diagnosed with cancer, possibly. Well, he was diagnosed with cancer. And then he had to go in today and get some tests run. Those tests, they were able to remove some things and hopefully maybe not come back. There's no guarantee. And really, they don't know. But this is a ray of hope.
Well, my thoughts and positive vibes go out, and seriously, you're not alone. If you need somebody, Adrienne and I are both here. And that goes for anybody. I don't judge. How can I judge? The only person I judge is the person I look at in the mirror. It's the only person I'm allowed to judge. So, I don't care what you've been through. I'll sit down, I'll listen to you, I'll be a human support beam. I can't wrap my arms around you, but I can send you love. See, and you know what? No thank yous ever needed. That's one thing. It's always nice to hear thank you, but somebody who truly means it, they don't. It's just something that they do. Mm-hmm. I would give my life if everybody could look at the world through my eyes and see, but that would be boring then, completely boring.
No, it wouldn't be boring. No, they'd stay confused.
They'd be like, huh? What was that? What? Huh? Squirrel?
What? Yeah.
Roadrunner?
Pretty much.
All right, so there's going to be a couple of changes coming up we do need to talk about. And by the way, if you need help, you can send me a personal Facebook message, or you can send the group. It's just Adrienne and I that have access to the group. So either one. Always know that there's hope. Always. If you need help, just reach out, please. Just be kind. Be a human. Realize that we all make mistakes, and especially ourselves. And just remind yourself that you love yourself and that you are going to do the best that you can. So the change is is it next week or the week after?
It is the 6th, starting the 6th.
Right. We will be on at 7 Mountain Time.
7 Mountain instead of 6, yes. We'll be an hour later than we are now, because the Rev is going to he took his radio show and he's going to do it with us. So he's awesome. He's amazing. So
great guy. Yeah, so we're coughing up prime time. Yeah, it's all right. I hope you're watching Rev, at least later. Yeah, just gotta rub it in. All right, you guys, we have about 50 seconds left. So we will see you next week. And I love you guys. I'm proud of you guys. Go forgive yourselves. Go pat yourselves on the back. And remind yourself that you're human. Adrienne.
And if we have a topic, message us. If there's something you want to discuss, we'll do, what was that? Dear Annie? Is that what that was?
Yeah, Dear Annie.
Yeah. We won't tell who you are.
No, I can make the story completely off of somebody. Yeah, don't worry about it. I can apply. I can.
But let us know that you don't want, your name said, and we won't. So we have a show behind us. We got to get used to this. All right, y'all. We love you.
Nah.
Have a great night.